3 years ago, I made a single hiring decision that cost my company $240,000. Not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, painfully, over 18 months. I hired someone I knew personally, someone I trusted, someone I was absolutely convinced would be perfect for our first leadership role. And I was completely, catastrophically wrong. If you're an entrepreneur about to make your first few hires, or if you're already feeling that sinking suspicion that you might have hired the wrong person, this video is going to save you more money than anything else you'll watch this year. I'm going to walk you through the exact mistake I made, the 3 warning signs I ignored, and the hiring framework I built afterward that's helped me make 12 consecutive successful hires without a single regret. By the end of this video, you'll have a specific tactical system you can implement this week to avoid the hiring trap that catches 74% of small business owners. Because according to CareerBuilder, 3 out of 4 employers have made a bad hire at least once, and the average cost is nearly $15,000. But for entrepreneurs like us, in those critical early stages, the real cost is so much higher. Before we dive in, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I post weekly videos breaking down the leadership mistakes that cost entrepreneurs millions and the frameworks that actually work. Let's make sure you don't miss them. Here's what happened. My company had just closed our Series A funding round. We had 18 months of runway, and I was juggling product development, investor relations, customer acquisition, and trying to build out the team. I was working 16-hour days, and I needed help desperately. We needed a chief operating officer, someone who could take operations off my plate so I could focus on growth and strategy. I had a friend. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus and I had worked together at a previous company. He was smart, charismatic, great at networking, and most importantly, I trusted him. When I mentioned the COO role over dinner one night, he seemed genuinely excited. We shook hands that evening. I didn't run a formal interview process. I didn't check references beyond the people we both knew. I didn't even write a clear job description. I just made him an offer the next week. The first 3 months were fantastic. Marcus was energetic, full of ideas, great with the team. But then I started noticing things. Deadlines would slip. Important decisions would sit in limbo waiting for his input. When I'd ask about specific metrics or project updates, I'd get confident explanations that sounded good but lacked substance. Team members started coming to me with questions Marcus should have answered. Critical operational systems were still running through spreadsheets I'd created, not the automated processes he'd promised to build. 6 months in, I had my first serious conversation with him about performance. He assured me he was getting up to speed, that operations were complex, that he needed more time. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. By month 12, we'd missed 2 major product launches. Our burn rate had increased because of operational inefficiencies, and 3 of our best early employees had left, citing confusion about roles and accountability. When I finally made the decision to let Marcus go after 18 months, I calculated the total damage. His salary and equity over that period, $90,000. Recruiting and training costs, $15,000. Lost productivity and missed opportunities, at least $100,000. The cost of replacing him and fixing the operational chaos he'd left behind, $35,000. Total, $240,000 for one hiring mistake. But here's the thing I learned. This wasn't just about Marcus. This was about me. I made every single mistake that leads to bad hires, and I didn't even realize it until the damage was done. After that experience, I became obsessed with understanding what went wrong and how to fix it. I studied the hiring processes of companies like Amazon, Google, and Netflix. I interviewed 20 successful entrepreneurs about their biggest hiring mistakes. I read every piece of research I could find on hiring failures and what prevents them. What I discovered is that the top hiring mistake entrepreneurs make isn't about choosing the wrong person. It's about skipping the system entirely. We hire based on gut feeling, urgency, or personal connections, instead of following a structured process designed to reveal the truth about candidates. I built a 3-part framework that's completely changed how I approach hiring. I call it the ACE framework, which stands for Align, Challenge, and Evidence. These 3 steps take about 4 weeks to complete properly, but they've saved me from making expensive mistakes over and over again. Let me walk you through each one. The first step is align, and this is where I failed spectacularly with Marcus. Before you talk to a single candidate, you need to get crystal clear on 3 things: the specific outcomes this role must deliver, the exact skills required to achieve those outcomes, and the cultural values this person must embody. Here's how this works in practice. When we needed to hire our next operations leader after Marcus, I spent 2 full days just on this alignment phase. I didn't write a job description. I wrote an outcomes document. This document answered one question: if this person is wildly successful in their first 6 months, what specific, measurable results will we see? For that ops role, the outcomes were specific. Implement a project management system that reduces missed deadlines by 75%. Create financial reporting dashboards that give me real-time visibility into burn rate, and build an onboarding process that gets new hires productive in under 2 weeks instead of 6. Once I had the outcomes defined, I worked backward to identify the skills. Not just general skills like good communicator or strong leader, but technical specific capabilities. For this role, experience implementing Asana or similar project management tools at scale, financial modeling skills including cash flow forecasting, and proven experience building training programs. The cultural values part was equally specific. We needed someone who would challenge my thinking respectfully, operate with extreme transparency when things weren't working, and default to documentation over meetings. Here's the critical insight. If you can't define specific outcomes, you can't hire effectively. Period. Most entrepreneurs skip this step because it feels like homework. But here's what I learned the hard way. The US Department of Labor estimates that a bad hire costs at least 30% of that employee's first-year salary. For startups, where every hire in your first 20 employees shapes your entire company culture, the real cost is your runway, your momentum, and sometimes your business. So take the time. Write the outcomes document before you post a job listing. Get alignment with your co-founders or board if you have them. This single step will eliminate 50% of hiring mistakes. The second step is challenge. This is where most entrepreneurs get seduced by confidence and charisma, just like I did with Marcus. A great interview performance doesn't predict job performance. In fact, according to research from Harvard Business Review, unstructured interviews are only 14% better than random chance at predicting success. So instead of relying on interviews where candidates tell you what you want to hear, you need to give them real work to do. This is called a work sample test, and it's the single most predictive hiring method available. Here's what this looked like for that ops role. After initial conversations with our top 3 candidates, I gave each of them the same assignment. I showed them our actual project management chaos, our real financial dashboards, and our current onboarding process. Then I asked them to spend 4 hours. I'd pay them for their time, creating a 90-day implementation plan to achieve the 3 outcomes I'd defined. One candidate came back with a gorgeous slide deck full of industry buzzwords and theoretical frameworks. Another sent a detailed spreadsheet with specific tasks, owners, and dependencies mapped out week by week, including callouts to potential roadblocks and mitigation strategies. The third candidate asked for clarifying questions that revealed she'd actually done this type of transformation before and knew exactly where companies typically struggle. That third candidate, Sarah, got the job. And 14 months later, she'd achieved all 3 outcomes and then some. The difference? I didn't hire based on how confident she sounded in an interview. I hired based on evidence of how she actually approaches complex problems. The challenge phase does 3 things. First, it reveals who can actually do the work versus who can just talk about doing the work. Second, it shows you how they think, communicate, and handle ambiguity. Third, and this is crucial, it gives candidates a realistic preview of what the job actually entails. If they find your work sample frustrating or beneath them, you've just saved yourself from a bad hire. Here's my rule now. If I'm not willing to pay someone for 4 hours of their time to complete a work sample, the role isn't important enough to hire for yet. The third step is evidence. This is about verification, and it's where I made my biggest mistake with Marcus. I assumed that because I knew him personally, I didn't need to do reference checks. I was wrong. Professional reference checks aren't about calling the references someone provides and asking if they were a good employee. Those references are pre-selected to say nice things. Real evidence gathering is forensic. It's about finding people who actually worked with the candidate and asking specific questions about specific situations. Here's my process now. After the work sample, I tell my top 1 or 2 candidates that I need to speak with 3 specific people: their direct manager from their most recent role, a peer who worked closely with them on projects similar to what our role requires, and someone they managed or mentored if the role involves leadership. Then I ask the same 5 questions to each reference. Can you describe a specific situation where this person missed a deadline or made a significant mistake, and how did they handle it? Can you give me an example of how they approached a problem they'd never solved before? What would you say is the gap between how they see themselves and how others experience working with them? If you were building your dream team for a startup, would this person be your first call, and why or why not? What type of manager or work environment brings out their best work versus their worst? Notice these aren't yes or no questions. They require stories and specifics. And here's the key. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for patterns and fit. If every reference tells me this person is amazing but needs extremely detailed instructions and struggles with ambiguity, and my startup requires someone who can figure things out independently, that's a mismatch, even if they're talented. The evidence phase has one more critical component: back-channel references. These are people I find through my own network who worked with the candidate but weren't provided as references. I message them on LinkedIn, explain I'm considering hiring someone they worked with, and ask if they'd be willing to share their experience. About 60% say yes, and the insights I get are often radically different from the official references. Here's the truth. Candidates who've been successful in environments similar to yours will have managers and peers eager to vouch for them. If you're struggling to find anyone willing to give a strong recommendation, that's not bad luck. That is evidence. Now let me give you the 30-day implementation plan to put this framework into action. If you're about to hire your next team member, here's exactly what to do. Week 1. Create your outcomes document. Block out 2 hours. Identify 3 to 5 specific measurable outcomes this role must achieve in 6 months, and work backward to define the required skills and cultural values. Share this with at least one other person, your co-founder, advisor, or board member, and refine it based on their feedback. Week 2. Design your work sample test. Take one of the outcomes from your document and create a 4-hour paid assignment that simulates the actual work. Make it realistic, using real data or situations from your company if possible. Write clear instructions and define what great work looks like versus mediocre work. Week 3. Conduct your interviews and assign the work sample to your top 3 candidates. In interviews, focus on asking about specific past situations rather than hypothetical futures. Use the STAR method. Ask about the situation, the task they faced, the action they took, and the result they achieved. Then pay each candidate for their time on the work sample and give them 1 week to complete it. Week 4. Review work samples and conduct reference checks. Don't just look at the final output. Evaluate their process, communication during the project, and whether they asked smart clarifying questions. Then, for your top 1 or 2 candidates, conduct those reference checks I described. Speak with their manager, a peer, and someone they led. Ask the 5 specific questions. Look for patterns, not perfection. At the end of 30 days, you'll have evidence-based confidence in your hiring decision instead of a gut feeling you're trying to rationalize. Will this process guarantee you never make a hiring mistake? No, but it will dramatically reduce your risk. Since implementing this framework, my hiring success rate went from about 50% to over 90%. And here's the most important lesson I learned from that $240,000 mistake with Marcus. Hiring slowly doesn't mean you'll miss great candidates. It means you'll avoid expensive disasters. The urgency you feel to fill that role, it's nothing compared to the chaos of hiring the wrong person and having to fix it 18 months later. If this video helped you avoid even one bad hire, Hit that like button so more entrepreneurs can find it, and drop a comment below telling me, what's your biggest hiring challenge right now? I read every comment and I use your questions to create future videos. Don't forget to subscribe to the C-Suite Playbook. Every week, I break down the expensive mistakes entrepreneurs make and the frameworks that actually work, all based on real experience, not theory. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. I'll see you next week.
This is the C-Suite Playbook, where Fortune 500 strategies meet actionable insights. Your competitive advantage starts here.